Good morning, everyone. Mondays with Matt. Welcome to all of you as you listen in and watch. Matt, good to have you on. Over the last 2 weeks, and now this is our third week in kind of a mini series within the podcast that we've done. We've been talking about certain words that got defined incorrectly over the last 10 years or so, 15 years, and we're kind of redefining them, or at least challenging our viewers and listeners to consider redefining them. We looked at the word transformation, right, and realized that sometimes very transactional things are being called transformational. We also looked at consulting and recognized that most of the consulting that's happening in higher ed is really contracting, technology contracting, and implementation work, not management consulting or strategic consulting. So we've discussed those two. Today we're going to take on the third one. Let's dive right into it. Opening thoughts.
Yeah, the third one is really about the word change and change management. For the past 20 years, as we've been putting in technology, people have been using the word change. Oh, we're going to have a really good change management program, and it has failed miserably because the actual change that they are all defining change on has been around the technology versus the actual transformation. And yeah, in the 90s, yeah, you needed to teach people how to use technology from being manual, right? But today, when we're putting in new systems, we actually have to redefine what that transformation is and what does it mean to the campus? What does it mean to the people that are serving students? Because the change in the way that we serve students need to be taught versus the change of how to do something. So today we use change, and they use words like communication and stakeholder buy-in and technology training, and
User training, yeah.
that's their change. And then they wonder why they
No,
struggle.
nothing
Yeah.
really changes, right? Yeah. Yeah, obviously, in our work in measuring entrepreneurial behavior in higher ed, we're finding that higher ed leans very heavy towards risk averse, change averse. So if we know that's a default, then to just paint it over with some user training on new technology is kind of silly, expecting a different outcome, right?
And I think part of that, change is that we're all human, we're creatures of habit,
Yeah.
right? And we believe that what we're doing today is good, right? And we're telling people when we're putting the software in, you're going to do something better. It's going to be easier, but you know what? Do it this way. Do it in this technology better, without actually saying, man, let's invest the change that we're putting in into this secondary element of an implementation. They'll expend 40 hours times 2,000 for a consultant, but they will cut all of the hours where change is actually needed. And when is
Mm.
change really needed? Change is really needed before a project, because you have to set up the campus to understand the transformation that needs to happen. And then once you understand what that change is, so you have to define change to this audience that have never changed. They've been
And
using the
then
same software.
and you have to give them the why. So to your point, and this is an important point that I hope people don't miss, change management should be happening long before a vendor is even selected, right? The case for change, the buy-in for change, the methodology, all the things within the institution have to change first. Then the technology plunks in and solves that last bit of the problem.
Yeah,
Make sure,
you're
I just want to make sure everyone understands that. Share a little bit more on that.
yeah, you're about to go spend 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, maybe even 5 million, whatever the amount of money. You're spending a lot of money, and you don't actually define what the change is. So who defines it? The software company comes in and defines your change, and that change is a technology change. And remember what I tell you about the consultants who are really contractors. They're just trying to paint the wall. They're not challenging you to be like, why do you do admissions that way?
Yeah,
Why are we billing a student that way? Why do we use
yeah.
prereqs in that way? Right?
Why are these
Those are pain
workflows this way?
conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so to your point, the workflows, the policies, the procedures, the mindsets have to be tackled. That's the change. And certainly, neither of us are discounting the fact that when the technology is being put in, there has to be user training, right,
Sure.
on that new technology. But that's like a tiny little piece of it. And I think that's where the challenge is. Matt, remember we were on a call, I think it was about 6 months ago, and one of our friends in the industry was saying that he had just completed a study at one of the schools, and they found like 800 shadow systems
Yeah.
at just one institution. That's proof that change management in higher ed is not working. You're buying software, you're buying stuff, and people are just finding the next workaround, so they can keep doing what they've always done and that they're comfortable with.
Yeah. And think about that. The reason that they are adopting one-off products, we have it. Like the cloud was supposed to be this revolutionary all in one place. Isn't it funny that Course Dog and Slate and PowerFade and you name the products, right? And hey, look, we are the first to
Good
say,
products.
yeah, we're the first to say, yes, you need a system of systems mindset. You need a system of systems architecture. And you know what? To work with all those 5 products or 10 products or complementary products, you better have the right workflow. You better be thinking about, badging and credentialing in this system. You better be thinking about, do we move from a term-based model to something that allows a rolling admissions, a rolling enrollment? These are change conversations you should be having. And then people wonder, hey, why are we not more effective? And why are we in production, post-production,
Hell.
hell, And so it's just one of those things. That's not the world that we live in. We live in a world where it's Uber, Amazon, Starbucks, where when we walk in the door, Starbucks knows where we are. Yet on campus, we can't figure out how to do attendance, and that impacts financial aid, right?
Mhm.
These are the things that you're like, why are we not focused on that? Why are we not thinking about policy around attendance, right? These are the kind of things that I'm saying it has to be throughout. It can't just be the one-off. And I would tell you, the consulting firms, they'll be like, oh, we're going to do a change stakeholder analysis, and we're going to write the communication plan. And I'm thinking, how about the $40 million that you're about to go put in? What change do you really need to have to make that 40 million worth it?
That's right. So let's give everyone a couple quick tips as we wind down this segment. What are a couple things you recommend leaders in schools do? Let's say there's no major technology purchase on the horizon. That's actually a good thing. What should they be doing now? What kind of are some of the conversations that could be had? And you've hinted to them, but how do we boil it down into what's next to really do change the right way?
Well, you need people to lead this change. And that vision probably starts at a president or the board, or industry is driving your institution to do different things. You need someone to lead the conversation around what does a future ready campus look like on your campus before I go spend 40 million, before we start investing in these one-off softwares that are just repeating what you do today. How do we think about the change? So the first is alignment and visioning of that. And you know what? Have someone who walks in the door and has uncomfortable conversations with you. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll be honest, some of my clients, when they first meet me, they're like, oh my God, this guy's telling us to change
Everyone's
everything.
going to quit and run out the
Yeah,
door.
out the door. But now that they have worked with us, they're like, oh, I now understand why he's asked us to think about that, because it's an opportunity. So the first thing is, let's set up the vision of that institution. The second thing is, you need to be constantly through the process of the implementation, having people inside of the change. People should be in there during configuration. They should be there during testing, because that adoption of that software is only going to be there if you bring people through the journey. Right now we crucify them through production support, and they're like, what is happening to us? And we need to bring them through the journey way before that, so they buy into it, and then they understand why we're doing what we're doing. And so I think those are the two things I would tell you we really need to bring a focus on change, is the visioning and then bringing the campus in. And it isn't just change communication plans, stakeholder assessments of what they need. Those are all part of
Yeah, some
requirements.
steady state workflow, mapping, all that stuff is 1990 stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks, Matt. You've got people thinking. That's the goal, right, of these weekly sessions, is just get people churning and thinking as they follow along some of your LinkedIn posts. And I'm sure next week we'll have something more to dig up and talk about too. So until then, see you all next time.